Call the meeting to order. Pledge of allegiance. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. A motion to adopt the agenda?
Motion to adopt. So I second it.
Second. All those in favor? Opposed? Need a motion for approval of minutes from May 18th, 2026. Fixing out today. Second. Second. All those in favor? Opposed? Merger discussions. We do have some guests here tonight.
We have Stephanie Burke from the Rutland Regional Planning Commission. Liz Royer from Vermont Rural Water Association. She's on Zoom. And Harry
Done Davenport.
Davenport.
Done Davenport.
Dunn Davenport. From Vermont Rural Water Association. And Nick is on Zoom, I believe. Yeah.
Yep. Thanks,
Oh,
Larry.
there it is.
Hello. Yeah, I can maybe give a brief intro. I invited Stephanie and the folks at the Rural Water Association, which were nice enough to attend in short notice. After the conversation that we had in May, I think that there was still just sort of some open questions around what other municipalities have done across the state and what has been working and maybe even more importantly what hasn't been working and stuff like that. Just given the I don't know if you guys remember the flow chart from the last one, but given the fact that we have so many options on the table, I thought that these folks might have some important insights for us to perhaps learn from. And yeah, unfortunately, I haven't gotten a chance to sit down with either of the folks at the Rural Water Association, but nice to meet you guys. Thanks so much for coming. And yeah, it might even, I don't know if you folks or if Stephanie, if you have anything that you want to add to the conversation, or if there's any context that perhaps hasn't been relayed that we can help provide.
I think it would be helpful if maybe just Liz introduced herself. I don't know if anybody else on your steering committee really is familiar with Vermont Rural Water Association and what they do. Would that be helpful?
There we go. Hi, everyone. I am Liz Royer. I'm with the Vermont Rural Water Association. I'm the executive director. I've been with the association since 2004. Been down to Poultney several times. And I believe we have an apprentice there right now. I haven't made it since we've had the apprentice there. But that's our kind of workforce training program that we've been operating for a few years. And I guess, in terms of this situation, I'm generally the person at Vermont Rural Water who gets the calls from mostly fire districts who don't want to be fire districts anymore. And those kind of folks looking for different options to run their very small water systems in most cases. I think Vermont's pretty unique in that we have so many really, really small drinking water systems. We have over 400 community water systems. So that's serving 25 or more people residentially. So that could be a nursing home, could be a homeowners association, could be a fire district, could be a village, could be a town, could be a large water district like Champlain Water District that serves a lot of Chittenden County. There's a lot of different types of water systems here. We work with pretty much all of them, but Vermont's very unique in that we have so many very, very small water systems, in terms of, federal regulations, pretty much every water system in Vermont is considered small. So we call them, very small or tiny or other words to to describe kind of these systems that are constantly challenged with new regulations. There's a lot of regulations and monitoring and things that have to happen in every public community water system, no matter how big you are. So that's an extra challenge the smaller you are, right? And the number of staff, it's most facilities I go to are quite a bit understaffed. Everybody's stretched really thin right now. And like I said, there's always new regulations coming down the road, new monitoring that has to be done. It's a constant struggle. So yeah, I have those conversations with a lot of folks on a regular basis and just try to help them brainstorm, what's the best option? How do we keep, all of these very small systems sustainable? And how do we keep, the community members safe and safe drinking water? So thanks.
So Nick in my office, he and I started collaborating on a completely different project, but that related to water systems. And I think that was a light bulb for him when he said, well, hey, what would you think about, coming to one of our merger committee meetings to kind of help aid in our committee vetting, the pros and cons of what would happen with the Poultney water system should the village and town merge. And immediately Liz came to mind to me in a previous, it feels like a previous life at this point. I was the town administrator in Proctor, and they have a public water system that is part of the municipality. And I worked with Liz and the folks in her office a lot when I worked for the town of Proctor. So I know that her folks are very helpful resources and have been at this for far longer than I. So I felt like it would be good to include them in this kind of discussion because they are a technical kind of support association. They're not a regulatory agency. So I just thought that, her group could bring some really broad experience for you as a committee looking at the future of the Poultney water system. And I can maybe share with you what I know about the other water systems just in the Rutland region. So that's why we're here. So not sure where exactly the committee is in its decision-making or assessments, but I just figured we're here and can try to answer questions to the best of our abilities that might aid you in your process.
Yeah, I think most of our questions at the last meeting were just how other municipalities are functioning where they have never had a separate village and town structure. Our town residents paying into the system that's only being used by the center water connected people, or
Like a base rate spread across everybody and then just the users pay the user rate.
The infrastructure.
Yeah, I mean, the systems in the Rutland area or the Rutland region that I'm familiar with have been in existence from the beginning of the system. Like Brandon has a fire district that provides water. Castleton actually has two, the primary system that's Fire District 1, and then they are a wholesaler to a consecutive Fire District 3 in Castleton. And then Wallingford Fire District 1 pretty much serves the village of Wallingford. And then you have what I would consider like municipal departments like you currently have in the village in Fairhaven, Pittsford, Proctor, and West Rutland. And in Fairhaven, Pittsford, Proctor, and West Rutland, those select boards function as the Board of Water Commissioners. Just like your board here for the town or village probably functions as a Board of Liquor Commissioners. So, it is a separate function, but it's being performed by the same group of people. But like in all of these towns, if you look at their meeting agendas, They will be taking, they will be conducting business as a select board, and then they will be conducting business clearly as a board of water commissioners or a board of sewer commissioners in those towns that have both forms of public utilities. So I have not encountered anybody who's looking at your unique situation in terms of what happens if the village dissolves and what is the fate of the water system. Do you look at establishing a fire district to then own and operate that system? Or does it come under the umbrella with all the transfer of other assets from the village to the town? So Liz, do you have any insights into any other area in Vermont facing this kind of juncture?
Not this specific situation. Like I said, I'm familiar with probably 3 or 4 fire districts in the last few years that have chosen to dissolve because there was another entity, usually the town, that's willing to take that over. Generally, that's happening because they can't find prudential committee members. So just be aware, it's just another board that you have to find volunteers to serve on. So that's pretty tough these days. And then I guess besides the fire districts dissolving, the other situation I'm familiar with is private entities becoming town-owned. So the town of Woodstock recently took over the Woodstock Aqueduct Company, which had been operating, I don't know, Harry knows way more. He just did their O&M manual, operating for, over 100 years as its own private corporation. Arlington also the same thing. The town decided to take over the water system for Arlington. In Woodstock, the town was already running their wastewater facilities, but the water company had been separate for decades. So I should introduce Harry John Davenport. Sorry, Harry. I know he did a little research today too, and Harry's from the area, and he is our circuit rider for Southern Vermont, so works with municipal water systems in the southern half of the state. So I don't know if you have anything else to share on this, Harry.
Sort of. So I mostly do technical support, but I help diagnose pump issues or find leaks or all the technical support. This isn't really my shit, but I will give it a go. Liz asked, so I'll do it. I do know that, so I came here this morning and I talked to Alan, and you see me sitting at the wastewater plant on the phone. So I sat in the parking lot and made a bunch of phone calls. And one resource that I definitely suggest people reach out to is Ray Counter in Brandon. That's a fire district, and they recently absorbed Forestdale as part of tied in to Forestdale as part of their water system, and that's a fire district. And I talked to him for a long time. He's a wonderful person, and he said that if anybody has any questions, please reach out to him. He does the financing. He does it's a one-stop shop for Ray Counter. It's
I would
incredible.
echo that.
You would what?
I said I would echo that.
Yes.
Like in terms of a fire district model in our region, Brandon Fire District 1 is kind of recognized by the state Drinking Water and Groundwater Protection Division as kind of a model fire district. They have a more robust set of capacity in terms of administrative, technical, financial. So I think they kind of check all the boxes in terms of what you look at for a system that is positioned for both short-term and long-term success. So, and Forestdale had its own little fire district that served like a housing development, I think.
Deer Run, I think it was.
And yeah, did not have
Fox, right?
the capacity in those 3 core areas, kind of that managerial, technical, financial, and they did get, consolidated within and taken over in terms of ownership and maintenance responsibilities by Fire District 1. And I know that, another example of that happening recently in the region, there's a fire district in Rutland town that is on the center Rutland side of Rutland Town that has recently been taken over by the West Rutland municipal water system. So the West Rutland system serves all the way down 4A. And so there's a fire district in Rutland Town around East Proctor Road that has just basically been absorbed into the West Rutland system. You know, so I think these are examples of fire districts oftentimes looking to dissolve, as Liz has been saying. Are you aware of any circumstances where a water system is looking to be created and they are choosing a fire district model?
No,
I think that,
not off the top.
I think the bigger question that this board, so when they commissioned the consultant to give different scenarios as far as merger, don't merge, to this committee, one of the suggestions that they had that they analyzed was if the town and the village both merge, what is there a viable scenario whereby not only the users of the water and wastewater, i.e. the people in the village, service the debt of the wastewater and water department, but also the townspeople who don't use it service some of that debt. And that's what I think this board is trying to figure out. Is there a model for that? Because Liz and probably Harry, you can attest, and probably even Stephanie, that it's just becoming unsustainable with the cost of everything. There's that feeling anyways. That the limited number of users in the village servicing quite a bit of debt, and they're now looking at servicing, the next 2 years, almost $6 million worth of more debt. So there's some people in the community, maybe a small number, that think that the town, even if you're not using the system, should have some burden of servicing that debt. And I think that's one of the questions, because the easy one is don't merge and leave everything the way it is. Or even, I was tasked with contacting Linden/Lindenville because they merged recently, and it sounds like they followed the model where they merged, but the users service, it's the water and sewer department and the electric department, because they have an electric department there, is entirely funded by the users. The scenario that this board was considering is that everyone shares in it.
Regardless of whether or not the water system was owned by a fire district or became a municipal department, like the highway department.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the scenarios I think that this board was considering, and because in the near future, I mean, the village boards set a new water rate recently, and it almost doubled everyone's water bill, and that's not even talking about adding $6 million worth of debt.
Yeah, no,
Coming down the road. So that's the question. I mean, there's some people that feel, the village of Poultney is the heart of Poultney, and the community, not only do the people in the village benefit from the village, but people that aren't in the village also benefit, whether it be by assessed value or just convenience or whatever, by having a village here. And some people make the argument of, but for the water department and sewer department, there's no village of Poultney, and but for village of Poultney, there's no center or heart of Poultney. And I think, and I know, Cheryl, I think you were trying to pick Joe Gunter's brain in Fairhaven, but you haven't had any opportunity to get him to get back to you. But I thought when they recently did a bond vote, some of that bond vote is going to be shared by the townspeople that don't use it. correct?
And I was,
There's a certain,
go ahead, I'm sorry.
when I was sitting in the parking lot, I also talked to Mike Leduc in Fairhaven. And I don't know the exact numbers, but I've asked him this exact question is like, how do you share this burden? Because obviously you have people in the town that are not on the system. And he said that they, obviously, like, there's a base rate and there's a user fee for everybody that's connected to the system that people outside the system don't have to pay. But part of their taxes comes out of the general, it goes into the general fund, and portion of that general fund goes to water and sewer. So the people outside the center city are still paying for water and sewer, but just not. Because I mean,
That's
think about if you lost, what's that?
It's infrastructure.
Exactly.
And
And if
that's
you
kind of what we're
lost
told what's
the
wrong
water
with the
sewer
system.
here, what would this town be?
Wouldn't be.
You know,
Your schools,
exactly.
your businesses.
You don't have fire protection, you don't have so much. So even if you live outside the serving community, you're definitely benefiting.
We were kind of told West Rutland is the same way,
Yeah.
but I don't know.
Yeah, I wasn't prepared to like talk about other
No,
system
no,
rate structures tonight. I was
I mean,
higher level. So I think that they're,
Budget, which is what
it would be in their
in there, yeah, when they. It's a line.
line
Line
item,
item.
general
For
fund.
general fund.
Yeah.
but Liz, are there, I mean, I know Poultney has developed an asset management plan. And, you know, part of kind of a logical companion piece to an asset management plan, when you are facing a circumstance like even if Poultney wasn't considering a merger, with the loss of the college and that being kind of a primary customer within your system, that probably could have triggered like a whole rate evaluation, you know, a rate structure evaluation. So are there resources available to Poultney to, because, you know, your question, Paul, is more kind of getting into the details of your rate structure.
Yeah, and we're working with John Kiernan from RCAP to advise us on how we can restructure our rate structure. The village can, but I think for the general purpose of the merger discussion, it's touching on what Stephanie you're talking about, and Liz what you're talking about, and Harry, of what do you do with this other entity? You know, and the other thing is, if you have a standalone water sewer department, that all the users, let's just say all the users, they're the one responsible for it. But then you have a highway department, if you were to merge, that covers the village and the town. How do you deal with when the infrastructure of the water sewer breaks and you gotta dig up the highway, and who pays for that? I think that's another scenario, another thing that I think needs to be really considered, because you can't run the water sewer lines without using the highways that in a merger scenario would be owned by everyone in the town / village. So that's, I don't know, I mean, the board can correct me if I'm wrong of, you know, because the other scenarios are easy. You don't merge, you just go with status quo. Or it sounded like, you know, when I touched base with Linden, they said, well, we were already sharing a highway garage, and Poultney is sort of like that, where not that we share the same garage, but we share, you know, we share a lister, we share the zoning administrator, we share the board of civil authority, we share you know, the town clerk even. So Poultney's sort of like Linden in that sense, but I think that the biggest hurdle, I think, is what do you do? I mean, I understand if you form a water department or a sewer department, you know, it's sort of what it is now.
See, I think you already have a water department.
We do, yeah.
Right? Yeah. So, I mean, I can speak from Proctor's perspective. As I said, I was a town administrator there for 8 years. And when there was a water line break, you know, Proctor had a water utility, a sewer utility, and a highway department. The operators for water and sewer were the same personnel, you know, most of the staff had both certifications. But when there was a break and within the highway or highway right of way, it was like all hands on deck. Everybody, responded. If it was something that could be repaired in-house and didn't have to require an outside contractor, they did the work. And, the costs were for whichever utility, it was water or sewer. But they were able to, they treated their, staff in their departments as part of their whole municipal budgeting. And then had user fees that went to the people who actually received the services, be it water or sewer.
So are you saying just in that practice scenario, are you saying, when you say all hands on deck, it's not only the water, let's say it's a water line break.
Yeah, the
It's not-
highway crew went and helped.
The highway crew
Yes.
was funded by the entirety of the community,
Mhm,
correct?
mhm.
But
that was just Proctor's model.
Right.
Kyle, Nick and Rob.
This was a long time ago.
Oh,
I was there from like 2003 to 2011.
Oh, okay.
Ish, yeah.
Before my time.
Yeah, I was there first.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
So,
They have such a good relationship. All three,
Yes.
that whole town.
yeah.
Liz, can you speak to any scenario that touches on what I'm asking, or?
I guess I don't really have any specifics. I've never heard of there being an issue, I guess. When there's a water break and you got to dig up the road, everybody just does what they have to do, as far as I know. Is that right, Harry? I mean, it's not, nobody's really debating which budget it comes out of at that point. I mean, I'm sure they do later, but, I think I haven't worked with that many towns though, where it's water, sewer, and highway all in one department. So is that all one? Would that all be one budget, or would they have three separate budgets?
Well,
Like
currently,
Worcester has three separate budgets.
yeah, currently the village only has a highway budget, a general fund government budget, a water budget, and a sewer budget.
Okay.
So I guess the question, if there was a merger in the scenario like we just talked about,
Mhm.
who pays to put the highway back together? Is it the people that are using the water line that caused the disruption in the highway, or is it everybody in the community through the highway, one highway budget?
I don't know specifically with that small of a project. I'm just thinking about, if you talked about bond votes and stuff. So I'm actually, I'm elected in Williston, to be on the Champlain Water District Board. And this comes up all the time because, the users are paying for the actual water, but then, Williston needed a new storage tank. So everyone in every town in the district, there was like, I don't know, 9 different municipalities that are served by the Champlain Water District voted on that bond just for the Williston storage tank. And I think, it's usually the selling point is it's beneficial for everyone, right? It's, if it's, the users in the village, or why do I have to pay for it? Because, it's just should be the people that are drinking that water. Well, that's serving maybe a school, maybe a library, town hall, all of these, community structures are served by that water system. And like Harry mentioned, fire protection is a huge thing. And that's, again, beneficial to everyone in the town. So, those are kind of more of the situations I'm familiar with. Like I said, I just haven't heard of, maybe I'm not around for the aftermath of like what happens, who pays for the hole in the ground. But as far as I know, towns and fire districts and whoever just work it out somehow. And that actually might be a good question for Ray Counter, since he's, a fire district, but serving the majority of the town of Brandon.
And Brandon contracts out most of their projects. So they have a contractor that'll do all the digging, somebody else that does all the paving. So they're strictly water. They don't blend it very much.
So if there's a main break in Brandon, Jeremy and his crew from the highway department are not showing up to fix that.
I mean, they
repair.
might, in a real pinch, yes, but if it's a scheduled project, they contract it out. They have minor excavation, does most of their small projects. But if it's emergency water break, I'm sure, I mean, they all have a cohesive relationship, so.
I
I'm
mean,
sure-
the bigger question though is, not the water line break, the bigger question is that, the village just had to reline one of their, water cement reservoirs, and that cost almost $300,000. And like I said, they have a mandatory update to the treatment plant which is well needed and well past its, Harry, well past its life, expectancy. And that's a $5 million, that's a lot of money. 6 million, sorry, it's 6 million and counted, because the last time, we had a small part of that project, the aligning the interceptor line between 60 and 90%, the estimate had gone up over $100,000 from the engineers. So that's a lot of money that the village users are still servicing the debt from the last time the treatment plant was updated. So it's like a never-ending vicious quicksand cycle that, because I mean, I've talked to people in the village, and they're like, if we don't get help with the water sewer, why would we merge? Like, there's really no reason to merge. I mean, that's what some people have said to me. And I was talking with someone that's not in the village, and he said, well, why the hell would I pay for, why would I pay for the water sewer department if I live out in East Poultney? And I said, don't you shop downtown? Don't you go to the store? Don't you go to the town clerk's office? And, without them being able to flush toilets, you don't have a store to go to. You don't have a library to go to. You don't have stewards to go to. And he said, oh, geez, I never thought about it that way. Because his knee-jerk reaction was, are the people in the village gonna help pay for my septic when it breaks? I mean, more than one person said that to me, and I said, do you let the public come into your house and use your septic system?
Yeah.
Because maybe if you do, then maybe that you're right. Maybe that argument has some merit.
I think there's a part of that argument that does make sense. That if you're going to Stewart's and you're buying something, part of the cost of that item was the water bill for Stewart's or for the restaurant. Maybe it's different with a public entity like the library. It's not the case, but I'm just like playing devil's advocate.
No, I understand that. I agree with that, but I've been the manager for the town in the village for 10 years, almost 10 years, and I was on the village board, which not only oversaw the village general government and highway, but also the water sewer for 8-10 years before that. And in my memory, and Joe, you've been on the board a lot longer than I ever was. They always operated on the shoestring budget. The shoestring is getting smaller and smaller. So you're right, Ben, that if you buy something at Stewart's in the village of Poultney, whoever's running those financials is gonna charge enough to cover the toilet that's flushing that when people get gas, whatever. But when it becomes a point where now that servicing of that flushing of the toilet gets so expensive, you run the risk of running a business out of town. I'm not trying to be like a Chicken Little, the sky is falling. Oh my God, the village of Poultney is gonna close, but that's really the question that I see being the struggle.
There's also residences that aren't able to shift the cost onto whatever the
Exactly.
customer. It's the fixed income
That's right.
retired couple that lives or whatever, it's a fixed income people that are that live in the village that it's.
Part of the thing I think through with this, and just I've only been, I think this is the third meeting I've been to, so most of what I'm thinking through is pretty ignorant. is that if you're gonna make the argument for somebody that's not in the village, I want it to be a very good argument. And I think the best argument I've heard so far is that if we're losing businesses, it's gonna impact your property value. So when you decide that you want to move or I think that's the bigger impact and the better argument, I would think.
Well, I've used the argument too, when someone said that to me about you fix a culvert up on Endless Brook Road. I don't have an Endless Brook Road, and you know, if we merge, why should we pay for that? You know, it's you just pay, you live in this community, you do what is best for the community, whether it's, you know.
You're saying because you live in the village.
Well, I mean, even if we merge, say we
No,
merge,
what I'm saying, if you live in the village, like there was a merger of the highway department, why should your money pay for roads you never go on? is what I'm
right,
saying.
and that's the same argument in one sense. It's not, it is, but it is, but
Live in the town.
yeah, you live in town, you just do what's best for.
You don't want the
So,
entire community.
and when you're working with RCAP on kind of a rate structure, are you having these conversations?
We just started working with them fairly recently. We've given them, we went through the first interview, if you will, to be sure that we can work under their funding sources. And we've we've given them all the financial information that they asked for the village. And then, it being summer, vacation starts happening for people, so we haven't really gotten into the nitty gritty, but yeah, that's the
I
intention.
mean, I can't see moving forward with a rate structure project without kind of having a clear sense of what's your revenue base look like?
Well, I mean,
You know what I mean?
for me, saying all this, I'm not advocating one way or the other, I'm just saying what I see and what people say to me.
But those are legitimate questions. I'm just wondering if your questions are going to be part of what you do with RCAP when you're looking at a rate structure.
Well, I mean, I don't want to say definitively what RCAP is going to recommend. And I don't want to speak for the village board, but I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what I see as not a dilemma, but something that the board in RCAP should be thinking of is if there isn't a merger, how do you, do you put on a fee, or a base fee for the fire department? Because the fire department is in the village of Poultney. I've said this to some people. The fire department's in the village of Poultney. They use the fire hydrants when there's a fire. They use the fire hydrants for training. If the fire hydrant wasn't there, the fire department can't use a fire hydrant. But the people that are paying for the fire hydrant and the water lines to the fire hydrant are only the people in the village of Poultney. Unless you have something in the town budget that says, okay, there's this fee for the fire department, to use that infrastructure. Because when that water line breaks, it's the users that are paying to fix it, even though it's helping the entire community with the fire department connected to it. So I guess the question would be, when we get down to the nitty gritty, we, meaning the village, get down to the nitty gritty with RCAP, do we have that I think it behooves us to have that conversation and to look at a scenario, if there wasn't a merger, how is this system going to be sustainable with only 475 metered users?
And just so how we got here in one sense, college shut down,
Yeah.
which was a huge user for us. And we're like, okay, we're trying to, what are we gonna do? And then COVID hits. We're like, we can't raise rates during COVID. I mean, people were hurt as it was, and then all of a sudden, then it's like, now we're about 3 years behind. And we lost our biggest consumer at the end of the street there. So it was, I know when I first got on, they had leaky pipes, and man, we were making a killing just on the interest because they won't be able to pay their bills on time. And then they fixed their pipes and then it went down. But it's one of those, try to tell people the more you use, the cheaper it is actually. It's not, we do have plenty of capacity, which is great. We could expand if we had to. It's not like, I was talking to someone who was on the board like 30, 40 years ago, and he said, it used to be like, you want to open a business? you gotta wait for him to go out of business because we don't have any more capacity, so before we can,
Right.
you know, do something like that. So I mean, could expand down through East Poultney, up through North Poultney, whatever we wanna do. There is expansion we have plenty of room down there, especially once the new one comes through.
Is it a
So,
quick return on your investment of doing all that work? Like how,
no,
no,
I'm just saying the capacity's there. If somebody wanted to,
yeah.
I don't think there's ever going to be a good time to have a conversation in your community about a public water utility and its cost and how to distribute that amongst your residents. I think there's never gonna be a good time to have that conversation.
just gotta rip the Band-Aid.
So,
And I would even argue, like, now that there's a bit more clarity about what's happening with the college campus down the street, it might be a good opening for us to have that discussion, you know, if there ever was one, just knowing that, you know, it's likely going to be at least a few more years if they can get that campus up and using water in any sort of large amount.
I'm sorry,
there-
Nick, you said there's clarity on what's happening
Yeah,
on
wait.
campus?
Sorry, maybe that's a little generous. There was one other item. There was one other item from the last meeting that I was hoping we can maybe put forth to the subject matter experts here, was how other municipal water systems with separate budgets deal with employees that operate across different utilities. Because I think right now, you know, everybody in the village DPW is wearing multiple hats, and like if we did have to break it out into a water utility or a separate department, you know, does that complicate the employee structure in any way?
I can touch base on that. I think, I think it does, yes. Going back to my, talking about the shoestring, and you alluding to the fact that the people in the village wear many hats, is true. So people say, well, the one good thing about merger is we can get rid of some employees. And I was, when I was interviewed by the merger consultants, I said, I think it might have been the first thing I said is I think it's a false notion to believe that if there's a merger, you're going to have less employees, given the fact that you're overtaxing the current employees that you have. So yeah, ideally, if there was a merger and you had a separate water sewer department that's funded by just the village users, you would have to have at least one, probably two water operators and probably two sewer operators. And they're not going to be out there plowing snow in the winter on the highways like they do now. You would have to have a separate person just handling, separate people just handling, the streets in the village for snow removal. That now we've been cross training Allen's water, sewer, and highway for the village of Poultney. So yeah, I think the answer is a simple yes. You would have to have more employees. I think it would be very simple. If money wasn't an issue, it would be very simple that, okay, you got two water operators, two sewer operators, and 2 to 3 highway department guys just in the village of
so
Poultney.
how do you cover Alan's salary now? Is it a third,
It's a third. That's the way.
That's what Proctor used to do.
That's the way we budget it, and they do track their time, water, sewer, highway,
Yeah.
but it's difficult to say it's consistent,
Yeah.
as you probably know from working in Proctor.
Yeah, I don't think I think it was just a third, under the philosophy that their municipal employees were cross-trained.
Yeah.
So that obviously a highway guy couldn't jump in and work as an operator because he didn't have the certifications, but he could certainly show up for a repair or a break or something like that. And Proctor did do a lot of their own small planned repairs, in which case they pull people in. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, yeah.
Well, I guess
Yeah.
Sorry, that's where it gets a little cloudy for me, is that like, what about the merger would complicate a similar setup?
I don't think it would complicate it at all. It would just, I don't think it would complicate it at all. If there was a merger of everything except for, the water sewer department,
Oh,
I
right,
think people
okay.
would just have to understand that the merger doesn't mean, okay, now we don't, now the 4 crew highway guys are now also going to take care of the village streets. I don't think that's, I think that's the only rub in your scenario, that they'd have to understand. You still gotta have an employee. Let's just not, just for the sake of the argument, dedicated to just taking care of the streets in the village, if there's a merger.
Out of curiosity, what's the goal? Like, what is driving a decision about merger now?
Helping the village, basically, right?
I don't know, to be honest with you.
We've been talking about this like you said, we share entities anyway. Basically, we as the village board are water, sewer, and then the roads and sidewalk. The town select board does all the zoning, does all the liquor control permitting. If someone wants to open a business, they don't come through the village. They come, even if it's gonna be right here on Main Street, they go
Right.
to the town.
Yeah, the
we share-
differentiation between village and town over here has always been a bit
Yeah.
muddy and blurred to me, so I'm just trying to,
Yeah.
why
And
is
it's-
there a conversation about it now?
Starting with the select board first.
It did. It started with select board.
And we.
I think, at the time when this particular merger discussion started, and there had been a discussion back in the 80s, and a study that, and I think I've been told it failed because of this. One thing I'm pinpointing is, what do you do with the water sewer? Who funds the debt, who services the debt? I think that's what made it not successful. But I think at the time when the discussion came back up again, there was at least 1 or 2 members on the then select board that it was a passionate thing, and they sort of pushed it towards the top of the agenda.
As thinking it would be a good thing?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
And then, because this has been, what are we, 26? Talk started in 22, 23.
Before the pandemic, you were saying.
No, that was the.
We've been talking about for a while.
There
You were
was,
looking at something years ago. Yes, you were looking at something. Weren't you? Even when Jonas was around, weren't you looking at?
Jonas was around. I knew that we had so much capacity that we developed a zoning district specifically to allow people to tie in if they could, and we tried to push the boundaries then, but that's all I know.
That's really your long-term strategy for financial stability in your system, is if you've got all this excess of capacity, is finding out how to generate new users. Right, Liz, wouldn't you say?
And we look at it too. You're looking at like industry too, not just
Right, users,
household. Yeah,
users,
yeah.
like
Oh,
all shapes and sizes, yeah.
I would just caution you, so this is a conversation I have every day. I just had it earlier today, that using capacity can mean many, many different things. So, I was at a wastewater treatment plant today. They're like, yeah, the town keeps saying we have capacity, but their biological oxygen demand, BOD, they cannot take any more wastewater into their plant and still meet their permit limits. So it's not just a flow issue in a lot of cases. So I just want to caution you with, yes, that's obviously the best way to, expand your customer base and make more money, is to add customers. But just have that conversation with your operators, please, before you do that.
well, our operator sitting
right there.
to my right here.
Do we have capacity?
Yeah. As long as it's-
Alan is the water sewer operator, as well as on the town select board. He's also a justice of the peace if anyone wants to get married.
Okay.
But that's part of maybe a long-term strategy, is understanding your rates in your current, with your current customer base
Sure,
versus
yes.
long-term goals. But at the end of the day, it sounds like you're really grappling with, how do we address debt?
I
That's what
mean,
it sounds like to me.
I, that's what I'm hammering, I mean, that's what I'm pinpointing now, I think that's a big one for sure.
And is there a way to distribute the debt beyond the users? That's what I'm hearing.
That's exactly right, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Liz, what do you think? Are there strategies to address that? And, you know, at what point in the evolution of this kind of decision-making do you start to get at that?
Sorry, I think I missed the the main point there before. What was
So
that?
what I'm hearing discussed by the committee really boiled down to me to be an issue of debt. And how do they potentially distribute a debt burden beyond just their user base,
Mhm,
which is limited to the village?
mhm.
And then my larger question was, if they're about to undertake maybe a rate structure project, you know, wouldn't you have a conversation about debt in that?
Before you
So,
jump onto that, if you're so willing to, Liz, I think it's important to clarify, Stephanie, that that's not, I mean, this isn't the whole merger committee, just so you know, there's probably at least 5 or 6 people that are on the committee. Well, Nick's on the committee too, but there's several that are on the committee that are not here. So, you know, I don't want to say individually every committee member, I mean, that's their only focus, because I don't think that's correct.
I was just representing what I'm hearing.
No, I know,
tonight
no, I know,
from
I know, I
this
just want to,
committee.
because if I don't say something,
Yeah,
someone's gonna listen to the meeting minutes and say, well, Paul, you let her say that, and that's not entirely true. So that's why, you know, caveat asterisk, I think there's other things that other committee members, maybe the full committee, thought were an issue to deeply consider. I just know this topic is the one that gets I think gets the most, is the loudest, really.
And it's hard to know. I think the big thing, I know Nick and a few of us, the big thing is you never know where to go. You're in the village or in the town, like who's where or what do I go see? That's a big thing. I'm not sure. So that's another thing. It would be good to have a merge because you only have to deal with one sort of one board, one this. So I know that was on the table as well as.
Yeah, because like,
just
for
be the
instance,
driver for having this
Right,
conversation.
that was part of it, yeah.
Yeah.
well, yeah, I mean, just for instance, what Cheryl's saying is like, if there's an issue with the sidewalk, we'll come to a select board meeting a lot and say, oh, there's an issue with sidewalk on, let's say, Church Street in the village of Poultney, and the select board has to say, well, that's not really our jurisdiction, you gotta go to a village meeting. So I think that's what you're saying, Cheryl, if a merger would potentially eliminate a lot of that.
So let's just say one of the potential
Okay,
kind
thank
of
you.
issues that is out there would be debt.
Yeah.
And so Liz, I just wanted to tap you and see, you know, what are the resources to help the community with just that one of maybe many issues?
Yeah, that's a huge question.
Yeah.
I guess I'm sorry. I've just been writing down a couple of thoughts as you're all talking. So I think, you know, going back to like big picture of the state of Vermont, you know, I would keep in mind, you know, every system needs pretty significant repairs, replacing their infrastructure. Everybody has huge expensive projects right now. Nobody wants to deal with figuring out how to pay for them. Funding sources are actually drying up. You know, we work with USDA Rural Development a lot, and that typically was one of the main funding sources around the state. And their grants, they don't have grants anymore. They only have loans, and it's getting tough. Their staff has been gutted, basically. So that leaves the state revolving funds at this, you know, at DEC, at state offices. But I will say, you know, when I'm talking to these fire districts that really, really want the towns to take over and merge with the town, most towns say no because of that potential debt and all of the infrastructure needs that all of these systems are facing. So there's just not a good answer right now, unfortunately. But you know, I think in terms of fire districts, I don't think the state wants to create a new fire district. I mean, it's kind of, you already have the village as a separate municipal entity. I don't know. So just moving it to be a fire district, I don't know how much you would gain for making that switch versus, having the town just assume responsibility for everything.
Okay, well, I'm sorry, we have another meeting that starts at 6:30, so I think I'll thank Liz and Harry and Stephanie for helping attending, and Joe, you didn't get your wish of
No,
let's come up with an end to put it towards.
and I think, and part of the problem too is we got numbers from 2 years ago. Those numbers, I mean, we know numbers are gonna change, but it's, people are asking like, if we do merge, how much is the town gonna save or the village, or how much is it gonna cost? Nobody knows, and they're trying to throw out, they're gonna be financially crapshoot either way, so,
So with that being said, thank you.
yes, thank you all.
Thank you, Nick, for getting here.
You're welcome to stay. This is also a public meeting.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah, you're welcome to stay here.
Oh, that's all.
To make it official, I need a motion to adjourn the meeting,
Make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
second, all those in favor,
Aye.
thank you all.
Now you at least have some additional faces and names and go down your journey.
Really information.
Out.
Thank you. That was good.
Yeah.
Just do it. Thanks, Harry.
Yeah.
Which, good luck.
You don't want to say it.
All right. Good luck.
Thank you, Stephanie. All right.
All right, thank you all for coming. Meeting number 2.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Any chance to look at the agenda?
Motion to adopt tonight's agenda.
A second? A second? Abby, you're on. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. We have 2 board members that are not here tonight, just so everyone knows. Perhaps. Minutes of 6:22. Does everybody have a chance to?
Thank you.
Second. Second by Abby, all in favor? Aye. Carried. And those Jules here with a wonderful.
Yeah.
See, you support, yes. Same, and you sent support.
Oh, I don't know. Have you?
You're on, yep.
Oh, okay. So we almost got all of our paved roadsides mowed by the 4th. We came very close without having to go into overtime to do it. But we fell short by about 2 miles worth of roads, yeah. But we had the parade route done nicely, and we even mowed out back the elementary school for the fireworks. Made sure that that little access road was in decent shape for all the coming in and going out for the fireworks, and got all of our barricades up and whatnot. And I feel like we overall pretty decently. I'm gonna put together a 4th of July checklist because it seemed like there's so many last minute things to do to prepare for it. But anyhow,
I have one, want to see mine.
oh yeah, I'll do that. We're still finishing up Jones Road. Hopefully we'll be done and off of there by the end of our workday tomorrow. And from there, it's still a little up in the air as to where we may be headed next. We got a couple different things to accomplish, so We do still plan on changing the culverts on Hillside Road this year. Probably within the next 2 to 3 weeks on that. We're gonna certainly put out some advanced warning signs as to what dates we'll be doing that, and we'll be sure not to do that during an open transfer station day, but don't think that would go over very well. I believe it's gonna be 3 culverts underneath Hillside Road and then one underneath the paved jaunt of Lewis Road, so. And we're still doing the roadside mowing. We're about to be onto the gravel roads. I know they're all overgrown, but it's out and it's making its rounds as quickly and safely and effectively as it can. So I did have some people approach me about the narrowness of the Wilson Avenue extension, given the new construction going on down there, and some classes or a business that's operating down out of the end of Wilson Avenue extension, because it's basically a 1-lane road right now. And the concern is that even though there's not very many people that live on the road, it is very narrow, and multiple times they've had to pull off onto somebody's front lawn in order to be able to cross paths. So I'll be looking into potentially widening to make 2 full lanes. At least be able to get the traffic by each other safely without having to drive onto somebody's front lawn. I'm just not sure what the overall history, if that's always been a 1 lane or what. Been going through the mileage book here to see if I could find anything out on it, and so far I haven't found anything.
Or is that a class 3 road?
Specified that, to be honest with you. Does not specify it on here. I'm sure I could look it up in another section and find out, but I believe it is. It can't be a class 4 no winter maintenance because we do plow it, so.
Right.
Yeah, I would assume it is a class 3. We're now finding some trash on Gorham Town Road. So I don't know if they're veering away from Evergreen and they're gonna start dumping on town or somewhere else or that's about really all that's going on for us. We will be getting into our annual MRGP work. We still need to identify what segments of road that we're gonna be doing our grants and aid on, and then go from there with that. I still have some road erosion inventory to update as part of a countywide update with the RPC for this year, so. And whatever else happens to pop up between now and then.
We do have the culverts though for Hillside already, right?
Do have them what?
We do have the culverts for Hillside Road already. We have them, right?
Like in stock and.
Is that something we have to purchase? Do we?
We may have to purchase or replenish what we have. Depending on how many lengths we actually use. We find as we've been changing the culverts that a lot of the culverts are really narrow, and I don't know, if you take the line off the edge of a piece of paper and imagine that as the edge of the roadway or the travel portion of the lane, a lot of the culverts seem to be ended right there. So there's no embankment, there's no shoulder, and therefore the road eventually just kind of falls down over the inlet or the culvert and then blocks the culverts off. And you also can't make a good safe incline to your roadway from stabilize the bank side with shorter culverts. So we've been lengthening culverts as we change them as well. As an effort to hopefully not have to do the culverts again in anybody here's lifetime. One and done.
Thank you for all you guys did for the 4th of July. Farms look nice. It's nice to leaving a village, being downtown. Lines out, it's great.
I felt like there was something I was going to mention from the TAC, but I'll have to look through my last TAC meeting. We have so many meetings, I can't organize them all.
The emergency meeting, you wanted to talk to me about that too, the very good management plan.
Yep.
Yeah. To someone that was at that other meeting and I was like, oh, I gotta talk to Joel about it, so.
So plan on doing what on Lewis Road this year, or that's kind of been
Yeah,
the past couple of years, isn't it?
that's my goal for the grants and aid and MRGP work for this year is to continue on where we left off last year, and I'd like to keep doing that until Lewis Road and once entirely is revamped, so to speak.
Good. Anybody have any questions for Joel?
Ooh, final lap. What's the business at the end of what we're at?
What's the business?
Oh, Wilson.
No, you said
Believe it's pottery classes. This is a third-party report, so
Oh.
take it as
So Wilson
gospel.
Avenue is the one, yeah, it's Ginger Pottery, that's the turn right before the circle by the elementary school.
Yeah. He knows,
Correct.
he knows where that is.
No, but I'm saying for myself, right, is that's where it is. 'Cause I
That is
didn't know-
correct, yeah.
Yeah, I drove that, and I'm like, I don't really,
Yeah.
where is that?
And
then
there's
John
another
told me.
new residents going in. There's been a lot of construction
I
traffic,
saw that right there, okay.
whatnot, so.
Those.
I've been down there. many
That had nothing to
times.
do with my current crew.
We had wrecked down there, and there's some big puddles, but now I said, it's mostly a family, there's like. Big family down there, gotcha, now I know where it is.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't know how much traffic it pulls in. I haven't
Is it
conducted my own traffic survey, but
quite a bit, because I've had a couple wreck things we've had down there, and it's a pottery, you have parties and stuff down there, so there's cars that go down there.
yeah,
Yeah, it's some pretty big holes, potholes.
not anymore. They're all taken care
Oh,
of.
yeah, okay. It's last house, yeah, so anyways. I don't know where it was. Does that answer your question, James?
Sure it is. Thank you.
Good, perfect. All right, any other questions for Joel? Okay, Paul, community development.
So I just have a brief update on the MERP projects. Continue to work with the architect. We had a lowered door test for this building and for the senior center last week. It's basically a snapshot in time. It's an energy audit as far as how much air leakage that we believe each building has. I haven't seen the results yet. I do have a meeting with MERP and our consultants with RRPC tomorrow. So hopefully those results have been provided to the architect and we can discuss those. The architect did come and assess both of the buildings as well as the village fire department building. So we're moving forward with that. We're hoping. I'm trying to push the consultants to start expending some of the funds for the grant. So I'm hoping we're gonna order the windows. May recall we received three different prices for it's in this particular building. So I'm hoping that we can order the windows soon and get working on that. I did have some discussions with them as far as once they start doing the work in this building, does that mean that there's a displacement of employees for a period of time? I've had some discussions with some owners of vacant space in town about if we have to move temporarily or this is a little premature conversation, but just put it out there that we will have to have a discussion whether or not during certain phases, whether or not the building has to be closed or employees have to be moved temporarily somewhere else. We don't know the schedule for all of that quite yet, so it's a little early to talk about it, but I just want to put it out there that it will be a discussion that we'll have to have. That's all I can say about community development at the moment.
Any questions for Paul? They came and had my house done with that energy efficient, when they come in and put the air in, it's pretty cool to see what they find in there. Okay. Curtains blowing. All right, tell me this is.
Have the liquor license renewal for, Roland Rooster / Clucking Cafe Coast Point. Or their tobacco, in their, tobacco substitute in their beer and wine licenses. If someone wants to make a motion to approve that, I would appreciate it.
We'll have a motion to approve the liquor license. Sounds good.
I'll make a motion to approve the guys.
Second. Second, by Alan, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries.
So you're gonna want to sign it? Approved. The town clerk has asked me, to present this stipulation in re-appeal for Vermont Telecommunications. Briefly, I can briefly discuss it, what the heck I'm talking about. VTEL has some property in the town of Poultney. And typically, the assessors will set the assessed value for properties in the town of Poultney. In the case of VTEL and other communication entities, i.e. Comcast, the state of Vermont sets the assessed value. VTEL has appealed the assessment, and the state has asked if this board is willing to sign an appeal whereby the appeal doesn't go to the Board of Civil Authority, it bypasses the Board of Civil Authority and goes directly to the next level. And so that's what the clerk has asked me to present to this board with that brief explanation. Play that suffices, because that's all I can really tell you about it.
Is that protocol to bypass
what's
the
the
BCA?
What's the purpose of it?
Well, I did discuss it with the assessor, and the way I understand it is really, I mean, typically the assessment, as I said, is done by the assessor, and when they appeal that, the assessor comments, it comes at the local level. And their assessment, and the party can defend and say why it's incorrect. In this case, I think it's because she wasn't involved, really the town wasn't involved at all. Something that would come to the BCA would be sort of a blind, what are we even talking about, thing is the way I understand it, Abby.
Okay.
So, you know, the VTEL has already, signed this saying, yeah, we agree. Let's just leave the town local level out of it. So in theory, really, they're giving up their right to go to that step and just go directly to the next step. And I think it's just because the level of expertise needed because the state hires out those assessments, and it's just the level of expertise with that the thing around. That's my understanding.
There is structure.
Yeah, I think they have communication systems and stuff in the town of Poultney, and they get assessed on it. I briefly talked to Mary Jo about it, and we're not even talking like a huge assessment. It's like, it's not very much at all. So it's kind of like, my guess is that VTEL automatically appeals all their assessments and sees if they can chip away. That's my guess. Whatever throughout the state their assessment is. But that's just a guess.
Do we need a motion to?
To sign the stipulation, basically a motion for Cheryl as chair to sign the stipulation. They're currently assessed at fair market value of $7,200 in the town of Poultney. And that's the assessment they appealed.
Our assessor's opinion on it was that it's fine to bypass.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Motion to go ahead and sign them.
Favor? Any opposed? Motion carried.
Do you want me to sign or you want Cheryl to sign it?
Does it specify?
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, you can do it.
Okay, thank you. Was that your motion, Emily?
Sure.
Thank you. I just have another note, reminder note in here, planning commission would really like some feedback on the short-term rental. And, I know last time I had on the agenda and Jonathan Andrews in his capacity is a member of the planning commission, sort of. And correct me if I'm wrong, Jonathan, I think you sort of, brought the select board up to speed in that the state is now looking at their own sort of, my memory.
The way-
recommendations.
What I tried to communicate, whether I was effective or not, might be debatable, but what I tried to communicate was that there were certain factors that were occurring that were causing us to have to slow walk the process a little bit for discovery. Like things were going to reveal over a little bit of time. And so there was a little bit more time for the board to develop its own opinion when getting back to us, and that it wasn't an immediate need. Jamie may have a difference in perspective on that, and she can certainly speak.
Well, they already read it. They should just get me what they think of it.
Oh, do you want response no matter what? Of course you do.
Yeah, of course. Say great job planning. We'll put that right in the public record. But also quick update at our last planning commission meeting, we were joined by Julie Marks of the Vermont Short-Term Rental Alliance, and she did a bang up job walking us through what it is that their team does. And she definitely offered to make herself available to the select board when the document officially gets in front of you. Right now, it's only vaguely in front of you for like, keep going or stop right now. What are you doing? Comments. So those are the comments that we could use. But no, Jonathan, you're right. We're about to take on capital planning, and that's going to be at the top of our agenda for a while. So you got time, but I know you read it like a month ago, and so I don't want those great ideas to just float back out of your heads. Send them to my inbox. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie.
Sure. We'll be done with them.
What she said.
So I just have a note on here, the personnel policy. I did hear back from Vermont League of City and Towns, and they do no longer provide a template, only because the different town, every town has its own sort of, not every town, but some towns have a a manager, sometimes have an administrator, different models. So they used to have a template. They don't anymore. They have an attorney that has agreed to assist through VLCT with updating personnel policies. I haven't had a chance to speak with him. With that being said, I do know that it's time when we visited last time, there was a model
I think I still have.
VLCT model that we were operating with. I want to confirm with the attorney, unless this board thinks otherwise, I would think we should start at least with that model. Unless the attorney says, no, don't start using that model, use a different model. The sense is, why start from scratch if it's been done many times? Why not just tailor it to a specific? So I want to see if the board thinks that's the way to go, and I guess B, when I do communicate with the attorney, is that what I should be telling this attorney that? So.
You're saying it would be better to start with a model one and not start really with our current one, to have an attorney look at it and just.
I would definitely say that, our current one is definitely outdated.
Some of it's similar. Maybe you look back and forth, because I remember we had them both. We did this a long time ago. We started, we never got to, we kind of looked at both just to see like what were we missing, what you really had to have in it. So.
I mean, maybe this lends itself why VLCT started or stopped putting out a model, because at one point, this board in the Senate form was looking at personnel policy, and it was halfway through, and then all of a sudden, all of these employment law, things changed and this board sort of got stalled because VLCT was like, well, we're looking at the new law, digesting it, seeing what, if anything, we should change in our template. So probably at that point, you know, the VLCT said we're kind of spinning our wheels of doing this because it did put this board on hold long enough that it sort of got put on the back burner. Well, I can see why they stopped doing a model. In some sense, but I think it makes sense to at least start with the model and then if we do engage this attorney through the VLCT, he or she can say that model looks good, but this has changed and that has changed since that model was put out there, if that makes sense.
Does this attorney have like reduced rate being through VLCT?
That's what I understand, yeah. That's what I understand. I believe he's the same attorney that I'm on the board of the Rutland County Solid Waste representing the town of Poultney, and they just went through some personnel issues, and I believe it's the same attorney that advised that for that board. I think it was through the VLCT. So yeah, I would confirm, say the reduced VLCT rate before I raise our expenses potentially. And then, and he may say, I've got a model or template that we use that is sort of what we recommend. I just don't know. I haven't had a chance to talk with, in this case, it's a gentleman that. So I guess I'm asking, short of him saying, oh no, we have a model that we recommend. Do I have a direction to say, okay, we have an old VLCT model, does that make sense to jump from that and start the process?
Or maybe you can give us guidelines on where we should, look at it and say, this is where you really need to start from scratch, or just tie up these sections or something like that. So yeah, we don't spin our wheels.
I mean, I can say that the model that we were then looking at, I think is somewhat difficult when you're dealing with a smaller community. Because there's a lot of discussion about, people that are related shouldn't work together and shouldn't be each other's supervisors. And, I can think of two departments that the town has where that's exactly the scenario where we have someone who is working with each other. So I think, it's certainly geared, I think, towards a larger community, but, isn't that better?
I mean, yeah, I think that I would ask the lawyers, see if they have a template too. I mean, employment law changes so much, I don't think it's worth spending any time on the model that's an outdated one.
Yeah.
So, and none of us are employment lawyers, so I don't think it makes sense for us to go there. I think starting from something that they have.
I do know many years ago, I went to in this capacity, went to an employment seminar and I had to come back to the board and say, yeah, that one thing that we've been doing. It's not, okay.
I'm sure. But I imagine with being a VLTC lawyer that I'm sure they would have some kind of template for a small town, considering
I
that
think so.
we're not exactly the outlier for not a big small town that we has. As the numbers for him. So.
Okay, so I'll do that then. Just want to let you guys know what's going on there.
Good, thanks. And what's been on
I have on here the transfer station supervisor position. Despite what people believe in the community, there have been applications. There have been some folks that I've talked to. There are a couple of interviews that I do have lined up. At our last, I think it was our last meeting, Abby and Val agreed to participate in that process. In the past, and I've done the preliminary stuff and then we brought select board members on to participate in the follow-up discussions / interviews. this board thinks we should do it differently, fine,
I will take Val's place.
is that Val's not gonna be able to do it, you don't think?
Why not?
She'll let us know next meeting, I'm sure. I said, I'm sure she'll let us know next meeting.
No, thoughts, I have 2 interviews lined up this week, and you're, I mean, you really are both welcome to come or.
This is a preliminary interview?
That's how I was gonna treat it, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, because there's some interviews that I've had that in the past where I met with a perspective and then they're like, oh, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
So it's like, first, you know, it's up to you.
No, it's up to you. Later.
So. You know, Cheryl, you had looked at some of the, and I'm happy to share, I'll share with you, the applications and basically the resumes that were sent to me. We need. I was hoping to have some more information on the South Street Bridge. I think you probably all know that they've been painting. I did I think it was last week. The state reached out to me and said, okay, people are doing the painting on the bridge, are getting ready to dispose of the lead paint, which is a responsibility of the town. And they asked, do I want to sign the paperwork or can they just sign it to keep the ball moving? I said, go ahead, keep the ball moving. Don't, you know, it has to be done.
Is that what they're doing under the tent thing? Are they, like,
They're removing the paint.
so they're like hot, whatever it is, spraying it and get it off the.
They're removing the paint and then I believe they started to paint it. That was the last update. That's how I read the last update. Did you guys read the last
Yeah.
update? Yeah.
I said like they put it, but I kept looking at thinking, why is this like this now like sucked in? So I didn't know if they were like
They're
trying to suck
containing,
up all the
they're
contaminant.
containing the lead.
They're getting it on
Yeah.
that first.
Envelope.
I don't need it. So I kept thinking, I took pictures. I'm like, oh my man, I can't even imagine being in there, but that's pretty cool.
Just a brief report on the July 3rd and 4th activities. I think it went pretty well. Tremendous thanks to the crew from the Poultney Dirt Devils. They helped tremendously with parking.
Great job.
By their estimate and my estimate, although I didn't have a counter, I think we kind of came to the consensus that there was probably at least 500
Still in front of the
vehicles that were down in there. We did have, you may recall, I did have sensor security. They had 3 officers there. And I spoke with them. They seem to be doing, from what I can see, did well. I think just their presence alone helped. In fact, at the end of the evening, I was visiting with them and they were actually helping direct people getting out of there in an orderly fashion. So I think that made a lot of sense and I wish I had years ago.
much smoother going out and didn't take as long, but the Dirt Devils also helps with that part during the day, so it was perfect that we have.
And I do thank Joel and his crew and his crew because it used to be me and I would recruit my kids to put up that perimeter around the fireworks, so that helped tremendously. So really appreciate that, guys.
And a lot of our volunteers that helped you with the collect
We did
money.
have several volunteers help collect funds, which was just about a little under $2,000 that we collected at the gate, which seems about, from my experience, that's roughly about what I remember.
And it's not many cars, it didn't seem like a lot, but there are a lot of. people
Honestly,
that
the last several years, you get a lot of, I don't carry cash anymore.
Yeah, I don't have cash, yeah.
We got that quite a bit. the last several years.
Just need a debit card scanner there at the.
Ooh,
Fulton Recreation QR code.
You know, with the assistance, I mean, I'm not suggesting we do this, but with the assistance of the Dirt Devils. With parking, it really helped to be like, know exactly. Not exactly, but approximately how much capacity we had, because in the past. People would come in and be like, I don't know, drive down there, and if you find a parking spot, good for you.
they were in nice lines, so they had them all in nice lines, so you could actually look out and see them, so that, I think that's why it made it, when they left, much easier to get out too.
Because there was some discussion. Previous to this year that, well, why don't we charge X amount of dollars per car to park? And I was like, well, you haven't been there, when it's just one or two people, we have no idea. I wouldn't want to charge someone to park, and then they come back and say, there's no parking, you just charged me $5 and.
Something to think about though.
Could
Something to think about.
could incentivize the Dirt Devils with a small portion of it going to their club funds.
They did a nice-
And I'm sorry, before I forget, we did have help, including Jonathan and his better other, and Ben. And his better other, and some other people helped cleaning up,
They went down early. We planned on 1 o'clock, and then a lot of people got there at 1 o'clock, and the Devils had gone like at 5 o'clock in the morning, and they did the majority of it. So when we got down there, we're like, wow. You were picking up.
No, they were starting a club competition, man. They're coming in strong. I think all the other clubs in Poultney need to get their game together because the Dirt Devils are going for #1. I think we should encourage.
Yeah, it made so much easier for us. Like he would say, there's about 20 cars left, and if you tell Paul, like we can make about 20 more cars come in. And then when they were waiting for to go out, cleaning it all up and making sure all the garbage bags are over, compared to the next day for us, it was like amazing, I have to say.
yeah.
Yeah.
They're gonna start a meth.
So the funds collected, those go directly to offset the cost of
They do,
fireworks, back to the general fund, or?
I wish I had the report in front of me, but, let's put it this way, we were lucky that this fiscal year that started July 1st, that we increased the budget for the fireworks allocation, because had we not, we would have been certainly at a deficit. I don't think we were not at a deficit this year, given the fact that we increased the allocation that the voters approved from, you increased it to quite a bit, but I think some people don't understand that also, as part of the parade and some of the other, activities, we pay some of those folks. We pay the public people, we pay the magician,
Porta potties.
we
all that
pay for
stuff, yeah.
porta potties, we pay even the guys that those little, the Shriners.
Shriners, yeah.
Mini choppers.
I don't like the way those guys drive around, but that's a different thing, because it's like, yeah, you're in your intersection now that I'm trying to let people go through, but you keep doing this. So yeah, I guess my point being is, it's not just the fireworks, that the allocated funds go towards. And a couple of people did say, well, don't we pay through our town budget taxes? And I said, yeah, but there's also, it's not an obligatory donation at the gate, and there's a lot of people that don't live in Poultney that go to this fireworks, so.
A lot of people, there are a lot of cars.
Fourth Sunday, can you call, and try to do it on the fourth
Yeah.
next year?
Yeah, that's what
I can do that. The last 2 years, I called the next day and they're like, oh, we're not accepting reservations yet. So I'll do it. I can do it tomorrow. But I see a hand up over here.
I don't mean to be negative. It was a really nice night. Everything was working well. Fireworks ended. And cars were coming across the field by the basketball court, by the tennis court, pushing into the traffic of people. It's a wonder somebody didn't get killed.
Yeah.
A couple of times, and the trucks would flash their lights, get out of the way, get out of the way. And I'm thinking, hello, you shouldn't be here. It was chaos. And I'm thinking, oh dear God, all the work they went into do it, somebody's gonna get hurt. And And there's nothing anybody could do, once those cars started.
But if they started that, that's the way the flow was. They tried, because before they all went out one way, they went like this, so that way it broke it up, so it was a lot easier. But you're right, we talked about there maybe be someone there that says, stop, let these guys go like 10 cars, like you kind of do come in, then let 10 cars go here. And so, but it did help with the flow a little bit better. There's always gonna be people at 10:30 at night, like beeping the horn. I mean, we had that a little
Well,
bit.
one
down there,
lady was parked,
complaining.
and she drove onto the grass, turned around.
Yeah.
And cut somebody else off, and they had words, it's like.
I mean, it's funny, it's that you say that, actually, one of the senators told me that there was a gentleman acting that way, like you're suggesting, like flashing their lights, and she said he had a big diesel truck actually like trying to smoke everybody out, and she went over and said, dude, like, what are you accomplishing with that? But yeah, there are people like that, unfortunately.
I just think it's something next year to somehow put up barriers and, like Cheryl said, alternate.
I think we need someone there when they come out so they can stop and then send them to go. Yeah, it's
Right.
just getting a body, someone that's gonna be able to do that. Yeah.
Because everybody, the kids are all excited coming out. You see that, you can hear the excitement. But then these cars come through, it's like, where did you get your license? I mean, you should have common courtesy to let these people go. So.
Just a note here, I think we're about ready to set the tax rate, we, Station, I think have pretty much wrapped up last fiscal year, so we know where we're landing. For last fiscal year, Mary Jo, I don't know if she asked me, maybe she asked me the other day, are you setting the tax rate? Only because I have a note on here setting the tax rate. It should have been discussion on what date to pick for setting the tax rate. We have to have the tax bills generated and mailed by August 15th. I was gonna suggest we either do it at our next meeting or have a special meeting. Maybe even a meeting before our next meeting on the 27th. Because we've been trying to, Nisha and I and the people that help with the tax bills, and Jamie Lee, you've helped a couple times. We try to get them out well before August 15th. People are already calling us saying, hey, I haven't seen my new tax bill yet, and that happens every year. But I believe, assessors have filed their 411 report, which is the report to say this is what the grand list value is. And I believe we're pretty much done entering last fiscal year that just ended end of June. So I think we're ready to have that discussion. So I would propose want to meet at 5:30 on the 27th before our regular meeting, if everyone can do that.
What does that discussion entail?
Before that, I'll send out the final end of year budget reports. I like the expenditure revenue reports to say, okay, we budgeted this much and we stayed right where we were gonna budget. Since I've been here, I think there was one year that we're like, geez, we really overspent in whatever department it was. So we added, I don't remember the number, but we added some funds in the next fiscal year to account for. So you look at the grand list, you look at what you need to raise for the budgets, you guesstimate. And this where your background might come in. You have to guess how much tax they're gonna go delinquent. And usually when I say guess, we look at the historical record. You estimate, guess, based on the historical record, how many people are gonna take advantage of the discount. Because you have to factor in the discount when you factor in the tax rate. And then you estimate revenue from the town clerk's office, permit fees, you estimate the state lands, how much tax revenue the state lands that they bring in, your current use rate, current use, etc. And then you plug all those numbers together and you compare what you need to raise grand less, and that's what calculates what your tax rate should be. Historically, the local agreement has been historically pretty much the same. Local agreement is the veterans exemptions. Because when a veteran gets exempt property, the rest of the taxpayers make up that lost revenue. The same with some of the nonprofit entities that don't pay real estate taxes, calculate that in. That rate has been pretty much even. Yeah, and then the highway, the highway. Maybe I can stop talking if you want me to, but the state gives state aid to highway for class 2 and 3 and class 1 roads. Historically, before I started, they would say, okay, we're going to get $100,000 from the state. Let's just deduct that from what we need to raise for revenue. And let's say the highway department budget was 100,000, and you're going to get 10,000 in state revenue. Okay, the highway department is really a $90,000 budget. Several years ago, I convinced the then board, why don't we just spend that money the way it's intended and not, lessen the highway department budget. So, unless this board tells me otherwise, sometimes if the highway department is overspent, I would say, okay, we gotta cushion that by using some of that revenue money. I think last year we did. And the same with the general fund government, we estimate all those fees and typically, my experience, we estimate conservatively. One of the things that's really often a consistency of because we don't have a weigh station at the transfer station. That's one number that sometimes it's like you estimate how much it's going to cost to get rid of construction debris, and you hope the revenue obviously pays for that. Not always, but usually we land pretty close. So that's sort of the rambling discussion.
How far in advance will we get the?
If we're done, I'll check with Nisha tomorrow. If we're done, I can probably get it out to you by the end of this week so that you guys have time to add us some numbers. Likewise, I'll check with Mary Jo to make sure I think she's ready for that stage of the process. And she's been doing it long enough that she knows this is the time that it's due. So, but yeah, that's kind of
Yeah, I would say if you're able to get it by the end of the week, then I
Yeah.
don't know, speak, just like, as long as we have enough time to review it.
Yeah, sure. Oh, is that you gonna be out now? Are you gonna come back?
Do we want to?
So do you want to say 5:30 for that? Or do you want to wait for Ellen? Or what do you?
Well, I feel like we should make sure that we have enough.
Yeah, exactly. I'm wondering if we are, so let's.
Great faith.
I can float that out and make sure other members are gonna.
Yeah, I'm okay with that if we have enough people.
Yeah. I'll float that out tomorrow, and if it works for the other members that aren't here, can I see you guys in for the 30th?
I just will be late up archery, so I'll be late, but I'll be here as soon as I can today. I have to work out, so just so you know. Archery camp.
It's only roughly a moment.
Five work people on there for tomorrow.
Oh, yeah. Only good then.
We had it this year.
That's when I said, well, you never asked for the contract, and I said, wait. You set a date, and you always send me the contract. I never had to say, send me the contract.
So now we need to say, take them off on the
Wow.
top and send us a contract. I'm sure they'll tell you they can't do it right now. They're just
Oh, wow.
finishing up all the other ones.
I mean, did anyone, I was there, but I was more like in my crowd control sort of mind, so I didn't really even look at the fireworks. How were they? Yeah. They're good.
I like it.
The only thing I wish they'd go back to doing is lighting one firework off on it. Exciting, okay, I don't need 3 going off at once, left.
Do they do it electronically? It's like everybody else now.
I don't think so. Maybe.
Out in San Diego, they had a big baby boom again where they all went off at once. They coordinate
Oh,
for
yeah,
the
okay.
shows. The second year has happened in the past 10 years where they accidentally all
I mean,
go off. at
if that's
once.
it, I mean, I could. They usually ask for my feedback when there's been something that went not quite as planned, but I can mention that to them and see if they can be more.
I can't tell the fun being older than I'm doing. There you go, like, that was $20,000 right there. That is a clue. But it's still, I love it, so.
I mean, yeah, I can talk to them.
Sure the price is gonna go up, so book them now.
I want to ask, I've been here.
Okay, good to know. Or any other like board business? No. Rutland Regional Planning Commission?
I don't think there's been a meeting since our last meeting. Their attack meeting?
There was a TAC meeting and I pulled up my screenshots that I saved from it. It'll be good for the select board, setting speed limits on local roads. I won't go through the whole thing, but I'll give you the gist of it. And then if you have any other questions, might be able to answer them with what I've got here. Legislative body of a municipality may establish on the basis of an engineering and traffic investigation, a speed limit on all or part of a city, town, or village highway within its jurisdiction in accordance with 23 VSA section 1007.
Can you just tell us the short form?
Basically, in short, yeah, I did with that sentence actually, but
I think what he's saying is if you.
to break it down Barney style for everyone, what that states is you, the select board, have the authority to control the speed limit, to change the speed limit.
So long as it's based on an engineer's.
It wasn't
report.
exactly an engineer though, it could be like me and Cheryl go out, do a traffic study. That report, even though we're not engineers, good stuff. Select board that.
Oh, I just heard him say engineers.
Well, like everything law inclusive, it's kind of contradicting.
Depends on where the-
Further down, I read, lack of evidence of a traffic and engineering study will not invalidate a local speed limit ordinance as adopted or amended under this section after 5 years following the day on which the speed limit ordinance took effect. So 5 years ago, it's recommended that you follow all of these procedures. Well, I guess it's,
We drive the road all the time.
I can't give you.
Here's a practical question. If you lower the speed limit, will people obey it? It's sort of a.
If you make the inside corners on a blind corner more visible, all they do is go faster, so it's really no safer. It's
Unfortunately, I mean facetious, but it's unfortunately.
So you gotta add chaos. That we don't like to use.
Yeah, we can't not do it if we think it's important.
Just
because
wasn't
people-
suggesting
No, I
you
know.
don't do it.
That's what I'm saying.
Don't
Don't put a stop sign if
Don't
people like.
understand what I was saying.
It would help if we had the enforcement bodies to, it would be Woodstock. If you go over 25, you're getting pulled over.
Yeah.
right, 26 miles an hour.
Me and Rich wanted.
We'll be ready for the resources.
I think
Well, Woodstock is if some reason that.
Dorset as
crosswalk,
well.
yeah. So it even looks like they're gonna stop on the street.
To be fact, okay, did you feel there was a need for that somewhere around town or?
Oh,
I think there probably is, yeah.
I mean, in the last year alone, I've probably been asked about speed limits on roads.
No 140 thought that. We changed the one that there wasn't that 2 years ago, before the cafe, we put the 40.
That was the state.
The state did that, yeah,
Yeah.
put it up, okay.
In fact, at that time, I said to the state, hey, I think around the lake should be 30 around the whole lake. Well, we don't have a engineering report that supports that. Because going 40
road?
around the lake, that's kind of crazy.
Which road is that?
I don't think-
No, that's just around the lake.
All 30s.
You mean that
I
one,
was hoping it-
that one that you say that big truck
I
is,
forgot.
and you're not in the big truck?
Sorry.
Yeah.
Darn it.
All right, good.
So I just thought maybe you guys would.
Thank you. No, I'm good.
Essentially, yeah, I mean, I know in the village, there's some road, like Main Street, that probably should be lower. But, I mean, I live on Beaman Street, which is Route 30, and it's 30 there. I went home after work and I was behind a car, and I was going, he had been going 50. Like you said, it's enforcement.
Isn't it mentioned about, maybe it was in another meeting here in town, but the speed limit of Main Street,
Yeah.
like you were saying.
Yeah, we'll talk about it.
Cars pouring out and it's going slow down.
One of the first notes in it was basically design speed. The speed at which the roadway is designed to be safely driven at. And also taking in, is there crosswalks? Is this the designated downtown or?
Cars on both sides.
What does this area have going on that may have an effect on, changing that too, so.
Okay,
just thought I would-
perfect. Good. Anybody have any other comments for Paul or questions for Paul? Great job, and thanks again for all the work. that we
Yeah,
put
I
in for it.
forgot to thank you, Cheryl.
I know, but thank you for the July 3rd and 4th.
Thank you.
Thank you. Live another year to move on to another year. All right, public comments. Patty.
This is more of a concern than anything else. I don't mean to be negative. But when I went up to the dump on a Tuesday, Ron was the only one there. And I said to him, what happens if you have medical emergency? I think I spoke too soon on that one. But anyway, and he said, have to wait till somebody comes in. He said, the phones don't work, the walkie-talkies don't work. And so I said, you really should have something on you in case. So then I came down and I thought, well, maybe I can catch you for 5 minutes. And you were busy, so. In talking with Lisa, she said, well, the budget's been passed. And it really hit a raw nerve with me, because I'm saying, wait a minute, you're saying the budget is more important than your personnel? Well, no, and. So, long story short, I was really upset when I left, so I said to her before I left, oh, now guys, do they have a phone? And she said, yeah, they use their own phone. She neglected to tell me that they get a stipend for doing that. And I'm thinking, really? And I said to her, what about a flip phone? You turn it on one day a week, because he's there by himself, he could have it in his pocket. Budget's been passed, I thought. Okay. And then, of course, Saturday, there was an incident up there, but thankfully people were with him. Happened, somebody was around this Saturday, and there were 2 people on. And the gentleman from the village was there too. And it just, if somebody's there by themselves, I don't care who it is, that's a liability. And she said, well, he could go in the building and call. Well, if he's passed out here or injured here, he's not gonna call to the building, use devices that do not work. To me, it's a liability issue. I don't care who's up there working, or, I mean, there's gotta be something that works up there, something small. And I said, a flip phone, 1 day a week. She said, well, we'd have to pay for it for the year. I get that. But if you don't use it, I don't know. I was just frustrated. I think it's liability, and I think it's an accident waiting to happen.
The ongoing issue with the phone line, because it was restored.
It's been restored. Out again, been restored, out again, at least twice now.
The walkie-talkies don't work either. I mean, even if
I
you
mean, I
can
think
make
a
it
lot
there,
of
you can't do it.
work if there's someone on the other end.
I did op check them when I brought them up there as a, to your point, basically, we were like, okay, well, some sort of way of communication, it's not gonna happen, somebody's not gonna hop in the backhoe and drive down to call for help or something, but, so we did object the radios, and we did get response back via radio, so just it won't work from inside the shack, but I thoroughly advised the current employees of that.
And I mean, to your comment that he was there alone, he has been told, pending us finding someone else to work up there, provided his brother can work there with him, which he, as you know, works with him sometimes, that he should be there on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And in the event that he's not able to, either someone from his department or actually someone from the village has been assisting us. And the cell phone comment, I did offer Ronald a cell phone, and he said, I don't know how to use it, and I don't want to learn how to use it, so.
That's pretty cool.
So I mean, I guess the alternative would be if we can't have two people up there. And I agree with you, one person up there is not a good idea. When the highway guys do something dangerous, they work in tandem. You know, if he says I can't, in the interim, while we don't have someone working there, or let's say we have someone working, they call in sick. I mean, the alternative is the select board member goes up, or I go up, or we close the facility because we don't have enough workers. I guess that would be a discussion we're having.
It doesn't matter who's there, if somebody's there by themselves, anything could happen. And I don't know, it's just liability aspect and the safety. The employees, you know, even with the town, they've got a system.
We're hoping
I'm sorry?
working on it.
What'd you say?
No, I said even with the town crew, they have a system in place, but the dump isn't as busy as the town guys are. But I'd rather not say a money issue as much as a safety issue.
And I don't think Nisha intended to say, oh, we don't have money, so he's on his own. If that's
No, she said budgets in the past, so
it's true, budget's something that's.
I understand that.
What was that comment like directly in relation to?
Hmm?
What was the budget's been passed comment in relation to when you were asking
Well,
about
that
getting?
could he possibly get a small phone to put in his pocket, just to have the one day when he signs out. And she said the budget's been passed.
Well, I think if there's anything like that, Patty, it's not something that you had that conversation with Nisha.
Well,
She's not, like, you wait for Polly in here or get a hold of someone. I don't think Nisha's the one that you would have that conversation with.
I tried it when I came and asked for Paul.
Okay, well, if he's not there, then
And-
yeah.
So she said, you wanna leave him a message? I said, no, I just want to talk to Paul. And she said, well, do you wanna make an appointment? And I said, no, he's a busy man, I can stop again. And she said, well, is this about the transfer station? And she got kind of raw nerve there, and I said, yes, it was. Oh.
I mean, just for. Not just because, not just in this context, but when she asks what's it about, it's really honestly to help me and to help whoever has the question so that we can have a prepared conversation when we talk.
She did say that, she said, Paul wants me to take down.
But
What the concern is.
very. A lot of people do that, like sometimes it's like, well, I don't understand why people can't just say what they want to talk to me about, if I'm not here, which is. You know, because otherwise it's, here's what, you talk to me and then I'm like, well, geez, I'll have to get back to you. As opposed to looked into it and this is what is a possible solution. Guess that's the nature of.
I understand, you were a busy person, you were out someday, we're gonna build this or whatever, and I said, well, I do have a concern.
Sorry, I just want to clarify. So do the walkie-talkies work or do they not?
They only work when someone's on the other end. If it's a Saturday, there's not gonna be anyone on the other end, but So the walkie-talkies are a newer thing that was kind of to help with this insurance.
Because the phone keeps being. Right.
Yeah.
It was the best, oh crap plan that we could throw together at the last.
But they do work.
Yeah,
during-
I literally up-checked them myself up there.
I think we all thought the phones were working until this past Saturday.
They were also working that same time that I up-checked the radios and brought one of the digitals up and one of the high bands up. But to his point, if it's Saturday, unless you got multiple people up there,
Usually do
radio's
it on
worthless anyway.
Saturday, Right?
The three of us.
Yeah, we had 3 on Saturday. We usually try to, and we're in the process of that. So hopefully, Patty, once we go through this, hopefully we'll have something in place and.
And Jerry was there on Saturday.
Yeah.
Very helpful and
Look, if one of us or someone can't do it, and we have to shut it down. That will be our thing that we have to do, and just say, unfortunately.
you imagine that one.
No, but it's
No,
either getting
know.
yours a liability or have a liability, due to liability, we can't have it open. I mean.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what we have to do. Yeah, so.
And with the phones not working, that's like a phone company thing, or like there's not phone service, or
It's where it's located.
It's a phone company
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Seems to be a trend lately. Village, town.
it's like, okay.
Oh, yeah. There was a
Yeah,
point
but
where the Comcast unilaterally shut off the phone at the fire department. Yeah. They're switching from blah, 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 and, they don't want to service the cheap lines anymore. Everyone's basically pre-existing phone lines, which,
Most we can do with your cell phones, but they don't happen to have, Ron and Tom don't have cell phones. Well, they use them, so that's another issue. Yeah. And there should be something there. All right, thank you. Certainly are working on it. What I have.
Plus, there's somebody online that has their hand raised. Oh, wait.
oh, there is not.
And you're good? Okay.
Hi.
Great. Hi. All right, on the topic of the Green Mountain College campus. Obviously, I think you guys probably know by now, the town has received nothing. Right? Don't give me that shocked look if I'm, the town has not received any official proposal or anything at all. That's all the media keeps calling to ask, and town folk keep calling to ask. And I thought it might be a good idea, if you guys kind of agree and nod, to put some information out there, not exactly specific to that, but I'm keeping on top of all the media mentions as well as all the comments that are going on. And people seem confused about the process, like the process of tax exemption, for example. Lots of folks are assuming that that's just going to automatically happen, which is not the case. So I would propose, and I've already started to draft a frequently asked questions just to nip all that in the bud and get the community on the same page. I would poll the various offices here based on what questions they've received. And if you've received a bunch of questions, happy to see if those could be just plainly, simply addressed. And then I would push that content through VLCT's attorneys to make sure we're not saying anything wrong, but just to get a source of truth out there. I think that'd be beneficial in this unclear time.
Do you want to send it out or have it pushed on the website?
On a website. I was thinking the PoultneyPlanning.com website, because I can hop on there and update it in the fly. If Betsy gives me a call that something changed, I could do that really quickly. But it could also be the town's website. I haven't thought that far, but not sending anything out because it'll go stale pretty quick.
Yeah.
But then if you see something online, or if anyone's we can direct people generally, hey, there's frequently asked questions answered here. It might be a tool that the town could use.
I agree with that. I've seen a lot of misinformation.
Yeah, and it spreads quick.
Yes.
And it might be easy to at least turn down the temperature on some of the conspiracy theories. Cool. So general nodding, that's all I really need for now. I was going to discuss it with planning commissioners at our meeting on Wednesday night. Finish up talking with town clerk's office and Paul's office to make sure they're comfortable with what we put out, and then VLCT to ultimately, make sure we got it right. I'm still working on getting it right. I have an out. I'm expecting a call back from Division of Taxes tomorrow.
I think that's a great idea.
I'm gonna keep doing it. Cool, good.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Jamie.
For the other meeting, oh, yeah.
Okay.
Gonna say, what?
Yeah, well, I was got yelled at.
Anybody have any questions for Jamie? Thank you, Jamie. We can get a lot of questions.
And it is correct that we have been fielding inquiries from reporters and generally has the current owner reached out telling you what's going on? And has the prospective owner reached out and tell you what their plan is? And the answer today is no to both of those questions.
Thank you.
I do have to say the chief of staff that was over there has reached out to me last week, so I do have to say that. I want to be transparent that they did reach out to me, ask questions when someone's in town. So I haven't gotten back and I haven't heard the second step, but someone did reach out to me.
Exactly. Marlene?
Yeah.
Oh, she's still around. Okay.
She's still around and she's helped with the transition and she connected me to someone else. So I haven't gotten any further than that, so that's why.
Thank you for that clarification.
So there's a clarification.
They just need to invite the guy here,
That's happening.
the elected guy.
That's happening. There's a date that's supposedly, but I don't know exactly what the date is, but so hopefully we'll have a piece of information, but that's all I know.
Pretty quickly
now.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. Great. Any other public comments?
I have a question.
Okay.
Mary Sue Reed. Thank you, Jamie, for bringing that up. That was one of my questions about GMC because, like you said, there's a lot of information flowing out there, and it would be nice to, separate the fact from the fiction. My only other question tonight is, Paul, what's the status of the delinquent taxes at this point in time?
That's an excellent question. I'm still waiting to hear back from the attorney's office of where they are with that. I can report that as I suspected, mentioned the payment plans that I entered into with delinquent taxpayers are becoming very difficult for delinquent taxpayers to sustain. So that's one of the questions I'm waiting to hear the answer back from the attorneys. And I'm waiting to hear back from where are they in the process of moving it forward to the next step. But yeah, there's been several of the delinquent taxpayers that, and some of them that will religiously paying, according to their agreement. Because really by the terms of the agreement they signed, it's if you can't fulfill this agreement and you default, you move on to the next step. And I'm trying to get some guidance on the attorney's office on how to deal with some of those issues. So it's a work in progress still.
Okay, thank you very much.
Is there anybody else online?
Not indicating on this.
I have an old business question for the board. Okay. I had mentioned that when we did those signs for when we changed those signs at the entry points of Poultney, we have that Green Mountain College sign. And you advised that maybe we hold off of trying to sell it. I just thought it was a
Did we
potential
with
form of-
historical? That's what I said.
Like we're paying her.
I have a meeting coming up, so let's hold on.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Is that new?
I don't recall how much.
I'm telling you something on two. Yeah.
There may be even a couple of them that we may have left up too. I'm not certain off the top of my head, but
The one by Gravel Street still up?
called through the arrow pictures of it. So if we were to put it out for sale as a collector's item, we could send a picture. I'm just trying to come up with some,
That will buy down the tax rate.
I thought we could put it towards the new highway garage, but
Fireworks.
Yes, okay. I have a motion to sign the board orders.
Sign board orders.
Second by Abby, all in favor? Opposed? We don't need executive session for it, cost.
No.
Second by Abby, all in favor? You all for coming? We are adjourned.